it's just better being a great dad. It just feels better being a great dad. You just will wake up in the morning and you'll feel better about yourself ultimately. So how does being a good dad help you scale and grow your business? It's very important. And I thought it would be relevant to actually bring my dad goals cup here today because it's very special to me. It's actually something that my son got me for Father's Day, and I drink out of that cup every single day. But for you, if you are an entrepreneur, business owner, or aspiring to be a business owner, it's very important to listen here because there's 4 points or 4 reasons why being a good dad will help you scale your business. First of all, if you're like most of the guys that we work with, and you may or may not be aware, but we have a specific expertise in working with men in business. That's our game. That's what we do. We help them scale their business, set up their lives so that they're actually being successful in all areas of their life and performing at a level beyond their imagination. And we've seen a lot of things. And if you're like most guys out there, you are probably doing what you are doing right now because of your family. You're doing it for your kids. You're working the long hours. You are putting your blood, sweat, and tears into your business because you want to leave your kids with something. You are trying to create a lifestyle for your kids. Now, yes, a lot of guys are doing it because they're driven, they're motivated. You want to live up to your full potential. Absolutely. But underlying all of those reasons, if you ask most guys, why are they doing what they're doing? It's something to do with their children. They want to do it for their kids. So you have to keep that in mind because if you're working long hours and not being there with your kids, and I'm not going to say not being a good dad, but let's just say not being the best dad you could be, you may not have the relationship with your kids that you want to have. So you could spend decades building your business and then all of a sudden realize that you've missed out on your family. And that happens actually sooner than you think because it could happen a couple of years into your business where you realize it's not what you thought it was. You did this for your family to create more freedom for yourself, but it's actually taking away from the time that you have with your kids. So you got to be very cognizant of still being a great dad because if you balance that out, if you actually have fun, you can say engaging time with your kids as you're fully present with them. If you're able to do the things that you want to do with your kids, it's going to give you more energy to basically grow your business. That's the second point. So the first point is that you're doing it for your kids anyways. So don't miss out on that opportunity to be a good dad while you're scaling your business because you may not have that time. You may not be able to recoup that time once you grow a massive, successful business to be able to go back and build that relationship with your kids. So you got to do that in the first place. Secondly, you're going to have more energy. How many times have you sat there while you're working away or working long hours and thought to yourself, I should be back home with my kids. I want to spend time with my kids. I want to go on vacation with my kids. That's what the male brain does for us, right? We work hard, but then we're thinking about all the reasons why we're working hard and why we're not able to enjoy those things. But if you're able to enjoy those things, if you're able to actually sit and actually spend time with your kids and engage them, tell them bedtime stories or whatever age your kids are at, go to their graduation ceremonies, whatever it is, you're going to have a lot more energy because when you feel like you're being a great dad, that just fires you up. It gives you that much more motivation because when you're a great dad, there's no better feeling of your kids supporting your business as well. And I absolutely love it when my son comes around and he says, Dad, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a business owner like you. And my son is 10 at this point and he doesn't fully understand it, but it's great to be a hero for your son. It's great to have that relationship because that just gives me more energy and more drive to do what I'm doing. It is so empowering to be able to have a great relationship with your kids and build and scale a successful business as well. Now, this third point is for you entrepreneurs, business owners who want to leave something to your kids or create a legacy of some sort. And most private businesses, in fact, 75 to 85% of private businesses are actually family owned. Are actually passed down or created by one generation and passed down or they will be passed down to the next generation in the family. So family businesses are very prevalent And if that is something that you are trying to create, that you'd like to pass your business down to the next generation, or you possibly are already in a family business, chances are you are, and you want to pass that down to your kids, well, then you got to think about this. If you don't have a strong relationship with your kids, how likely is it that your kids are going to want to take that business over, right? And be engaged with you along the way. How likely is it that your kids want to be involved in the business before you transition it over? It's one of the biggest challenges that we see in family businesses is the children do not necessarily want to work in the business because maybe they're not interested, but also they're afraid of what might happen when they actually start to work in the business. They don't have that relationship with their parents in the first place, where it at the level it should be, that trust level, that respect level, whatever it is, that level of communication. So they shy away from working in the business and eventually taking over the business. And this is more common than you think. It happens to many, many businesses. And I always laugh because there's a lot of people out there that believe that their kids are going to take over the business without even having an effective conversation or a transition plan in place. And what ends up happening is it blows up in their face because their kids are like, no, we don't want to take over the business. Just give us some money or whatever it is, sell the business. And you're sitting there scratching your head, wondering where you went wrong as a parent, as a dad. And you want to avoid that. You want to avoid that first by being a great dad, because by being a great dad, you can have those effective conversations with your kids and say, hey, do you want to work in the family business? Now, my son is 10 years old. I'm going to probably start having conversations with him to see what he can help me with in the next couple of years, whether it's some admin work or running errands or whatever it is, just so I can gauge his interest. And if he wants to join the family business when he's older, great. If he doesn't, that's fine too. But it's important for you to have that conversation. And that conversation can only be had effectively if you have a good relationship with your children. So the longevity of your business is the third reason why you want to be a great dad. You may run out of fuel at some point in time. And I see this quite often where men, entrepreneurs, have built a business, just say it's taken them 10 years, 15, 20 years. And then what ends up happening is they realize their kids are not interested. And they basically, what ends up happening is the dad loses interest in continuing to grow the business, because it can be a massive demotivator, right? You may just say to yourself, well, what's the point of me continuing to work so hard to continue to scale the business if my kids don't want to take it over? So losing that fire, losing that edge absolutely happens if your kids are not wanting to get involved in the business or you don't have that relationship. So keep that in mind as well. The other thing is, this is a tricky one, but it happens more often than not. And people avoid this when it probably should happen. And this is a topic of divorce. A lot of guys end up getting divorced, right? We know that the divorce rate is over 50%. We know a lot of guys avoid getting a divorce and they stay in unhappy marriages because they don't want to lose their business. They don't want to lose their wealth. They don't want to lose all of that time, effort, and resources that they put into building this business over the decades. And so they live a miserable life in a miserable relationship. What can buffer that is having a great relationship with your kids. So having a great relationship with your kids can buffer, I'm going to say, challenging relationship. It's not going to make up for it. And I never encourage anybody to do that. I never encourage anybody to stay in a relationship where they're not happy, because your relationship with your spouse, with your wife, is the most important thing in your life. Your kids are actually second to that. And if you're not happy in your relationship, it's going to trickle down to your children. Guaranteed, they're going to see it. You can't put up a front. This isn't acting. Kids will see right through it. And you're going to screw your kids up as well, because they're going to see that type of behavior and believe that that is normal. Hate to say it, but it happens. You got to set the example. So either you be in a great relationship, or you should consider maybe not being in that relationship at all. And I'm all for marriages. I'm all for relationships. Listen, I've been in a tough relationship myself, and my wife and I have had to go through some real tough times to get to where we are. And it hasn't always been easy, and it's been really tough. And there have been conversations about, do we separate? Do we go our separate ways? But I truly believe in having a passionate, loving relationship, and that comes from work and effort. But again, coming back to this fourth point, is a divorce can cripple your business. It happens, right? If you have a business that's worth $50 million and you're dependent on that capital and cash flow to continue to scale your business and pay your employees and remain competitively stable or have a competitive advantage, well, having half of your assets taken away can cripple your business. It can happen and it will happen. So being a great dad is actually a great buffer for not getting divorced. Now, I know it sounds like I'm contradicting myself, but what I'm saying is work on your relationship first. And if that doesn't work, and if you're hell-bent on not getting divorced, well, then one way to avoid the divorce is actually having a strong relationship with your kids. Because at least if your wife is seeing that you're being a great dad, she may not take you to the cleaners. She may be more open to having conversations about staying in the relationship, or even if it goes down the path of divorce, that she's not going to take you for everything that you have. And it's going to be more civil, right? It's going to be more rational and it's going to be more respectful. Being a great dad is very important for not only your business, but also for your kids in the process of not having a good relationship or the process of going through a divorce. Because your kids will take that on. They will see the pain that you are going through, that your spouse is going through, and that they are going through. And that could challenge them and that could harm them in the long run. So being a great dad can help you avoid a lot of those challenges. So let me sum it up here. You want to scale your business and you have kids, you're married, or let's just say maybe you're not even married, but you have kids. It's so important to be a great dad because that is going to help you scale your business for a number of reasons. A, because you're doing it for your kids anyways, right? Don't fool yourself. A lot of the reason why you're doing it, for most men, I'm not going to say for every man out there, is because you're doing it for your kids. Secondly, you're going to have more energy. You're just going to be more driven. You're going to have more inspiration. You're going to have more motivation, and your kids are going to be there to support you. Your kids are not going to be there to support you if you're not being a great dad. And third, if you're in a family business or you're looking to transition your business, well, you have to have a great relationship in order to do that. If you want your business to remain in your family, you need to have a great relationship with your kids. And fourth is it buffers the impact. Having a great relationship with your kids buffers the impact of having a not so great relationship, and I'm going to say crappy relationship, or even a relationship that's on the verge of divorce or going through a divorce, because it will not only give you some sanity to have a great relationship with your kids going through this process, but it's also going to tell your wife that you're still a great dad, and she doesn't have to, let's just say, kick you right between the legs. Because if you're not a great dad and you go through that process, it's going to be a lot more hurtful. She will probably go after you for as much as she can. So you want to make sure that you deal with that beforehand. And it's just better being a great dad. It just feels better being a great dad. You just will wake up in the morning and you'll feel better about yourself ultimately. So those are the reasons why you want to be a great dad and why being a great dad can help you scale your business massively. Take care.